This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. Here is a knit 2 purl 1 button band that you can make on any machine with no ribber. I started by knitting a sample, and my sample was 28 rows. I put buttons down one side. Now I'm going to put buttonholes down the other side of the same sample, just to recreate this for you so you can see how you would do your button band. The first thing to do is pick out needles. Pick out 2 needles and skip one right on across the needle bed. Pick out a few more than you think you need, and then the sample holding the wrong side toward you is going to roll this way, because that's what knitting does. And I'm going to zoom in close and show you what to pick up. As I unroll the sample, I want to get not the very loop on the end, but the second one, and I hang it on a needle. Then I skip a loop. There's a little loop here that I skip. Now I'm avoiding this edge loop, but the second one in, that's one I skip. And I avoid this edge loop and get this one. It goes on the next needle. Now I skip this loop right here and I get this one. Now it just so happens that the loops I skip are slightly smaller than the loops I get. So that makes it really easy for me to see what loops to get. And I just work across, skip one, pick one up. And yes, I have to pull it to the right occasionally. Skip one and pick one up. And I do this all the way across. I've zoomed out enough so you can see me getting the rest. The reason this is stretched is this is the proper ratio of rows to stitches, and that means we just have to stretch it. Now I have the needles picked up, and I'm also going to take a needle pusher and push out the in-between ones as well. And then I'm going to bring them all out to E position. My carriage is set to knit needles that are in hold, or E position. I like the garment tension -2 for the ribbing. So my garment tension was 5. My ribbing is going to be tension 3, and I have put my tension dial on tension 3. And with these all pulled out, they'll be easily knitted off. So I thread my carriage and I knit to the left. That is the first row. And I think it would be nice to have a weight or 2 on the knitting. I'm going to do 8 rows total in my band. So that was my first row. Second, third, and fourth. After half the rows, I have buttonholes. So that's it for now, kids, until I do a bit of latching. The stitches to latch up are going to be every 3rd stitch. So I'm bringing out every 3rd needle. Pick them out once and then check them. Make sure you got the right ones. Then push them back and tug. Tugging unravels all of them. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is latch them up. So I have my latch tool, and I first put my latch tool through that skipped stitch under the bottom of these big old loose ladders. So I'm inside that skipped stitch, push in and bring out this next one. I latch them up, pulling the first one through that skipped stitch in that fashion. So here's my next one. Now, if you're having trouble seeing, that skipped stitch. Kind of pull it down and open, and also make sure that this ladder is unraveled. It could still be caught in that last stitch. So I put my tool in that skipped stitch and latch, 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 latch. Slide the tool in a little further so that I can get this last one on the needle. And here's my next one. Just picking that up so I can see my skipped stitch, which is right there. Got it. And latch, 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 and hang. This next one, put my tool in that skip stitch. Ha, got it. And latch, 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 latch. Now, this is a way to get a really good looking button band. And I try to always teach you techniques that give you the best results that I can achieve. So I'm not saying my way is the right way or the only way, but always swatch the techniques you learn and read about and see if you are satisfied. I'm trying to give you really high quality techniques that give you optimal results from your hard work knitting. Although I think it's fun to knit, so still, it's a big investment of time. People think that machine knits knit themselves. What nonsense. It is a big investment of time and skill. I will help you with the skill end of things if you need help, and you supply the time and the great attitude. See, I'm trying not to split that one, but I got it. Now, you decide where your buttonholes go, but for this band, they go on the ridges. They go where I just latched up stitches. And I'm going to put a buttonhole here on this first ridge, and then skip a ridge, put a buttonhole here. You could skip 2 ridges, but I'm putting mine a little closer together. As I said, play and swatch before you actually do this to your garment. And if all goes wrong, of course you could unravel this and do it again. But if you swatch, you'd be amazed how much less can go wrong because it all becomes familiar. Okay, I'm ready to knit the final 4 rows, but first I am making sure that all of these needles are still in work because it's so easy to have one of them go back and now it's back in A position and there's a hole, and that won't look right. So I have all my needles in work. I checked all my needle butts back here, so they're all in work. And I'm going to do 4 rows, but the last row will be loose. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 4, I'm adding 5 whole numbers to the tension dial. And that was my loose row. Now the button band's knitted, but there's latching to be done. I'll start though by cutting the yarn. How much yarn tail I leave depends on whether I have sewing to do. But I like to cut it now because I'm going to need it in a minute. Now I need to do this latching. And once again, I pick out which stitches I'm going to unravel. And they are the 3rd and the 6th and the 9th from the end. So every 3rd stitch, pick them out, double check. It should be the needle right above a buttonhole. That's the right one. And then drop them out. And then time to latch. Now, I can't just yank them all down. They would unravel all the way. So I'm just going to kind of yank as I go. So we'll start with this buttonhole one. I put my tool in the big hole, and then I unravel. A little yank, a little wiggle with my other hand, and latch that up. Now, the buttonholes will only unravel to the buttonhole, but these other ones are in danger of raveling down farther, so stick your tool in the top of the group of latched ones, and then do your unravel, yank and wiggle. There we go, and then latch up. Hang that on. Next one is a buttonhole, so I can just yank. If you're wondering where to put your tool on the buttonhole, well, it was 4 rows after the buttonhole, so go down 4 ladders. That's where the tool goes. And then latch. I played around with a 10-row band, but that was too big for this bulky machine using this group 4 yarn. This is for any machine without a ribber, but I like to teach it on the bulky so you can see it more easily. So I did it on the bulky. This is a great technique for a mid-gauge like an LK150. Next one. The rule in knitting is to solve your problems with swatches. And you do your swatches, whatever you think might be an issue for you, do them before you get deeply into the project, and then you can knit with confidence. And if you don't like an author's technique on something, you can play around with swatches and find ways to improve on it so that you're really happy with your finished product. Come on, you guys. If they're being stubborn, just take a tool and pull them out. Then they'll unravel. Some of my yarn is slippery and unravels like crazy. This yarn, not so much. Now I have the band latched, and I merely need to bind off. So, all needles and holes. I've already cut so that I'm going to work from the end with no tail to the cut end. You can do this bind off in either direction, and if you watch my videos, you see me do it all the time. I like this bind off. It looks like a hand knitter's bind off. Neat and tidy. That's what I'm going for. So I put my tool inside the stitch and just pull it off the end of the needle, pull it through this stitch before it. This is the same bind off that you get with a little gadget that you crunch across your bed called a linker, and I hadn't used a linker in years. I used one the other day and I thought, oh, this is a nice gadget, but I've done so much binding off by hand this way that I'm perfectly happy binding off by hand. It's time for the big reveal. I just get the hardware off my sample and I'll hold it up so you can see what you should have after you do this. This is a terrific button band. and a very tidy edge. It looks just like a hand knit bind off. There are lots of ways to do button bands, but I think this will be a great one to put in your repertoire. If you found this video valuable, it helps me, and it helps me teach more machine knitters if you click on subscribe and like. Also be sure to check out my playlists.